I just got off of a 36-hour shift, so I'm tired. But this is something I thought of a few days ago, and I thought of sharing it. I call it the John Wick's dog rule, and it can apply narratively for stories. I mean, it's a narrative rule. It can apply to stories, fictional, but it can also apply to real life news, if you can even call news real life anymore. Okay, so I'm back, and I have the rule written down. Like I said, it's just my made up thing, and it's something I've noticed just in passing over the past, I don't know, like 5 years or so. And so I have it written down in Google Docs in front of me. And I'm at the gas pump, in case you were wondering, so I am going to get gas still. But the John Wick's dog rule, I have it written out all nice and neat here, as official as I could possibly word it. And it goes like this. A narrative failsafe where emotional convenience outranks realism, ensuring protagonists are never forced into morally gray acts, like John Wick having to kill an attack dog, because audiences addicted to what's called dopamine morality, which I don't think I created that necessarily, but addicted to dopamine morality would riot and cancel the story on sight. And so, if you're not acquainted with the film called John Wick, essentially, I never thought he went on a violent rampage because the goons killed his pup. I think it was more of a build-up, but that's not how most people took it. Most people took it as, oh, the goons killed his dog, so he goes on a violent rampage where he kills like 92 people. Now, that's probably the intention of what they were trying to get at. But my whole point is, in a real life situation, let me put this back actually. In a real life scenario with a professional assassin like John Wick, if we're looking at logic, just strict logic, unrepentant logic, you have apparently the saint of an assassin who has a strict moral code and all that good stuff, how all good real-world assassins have. Moral codes kind of goes along with the job description. Realistically, if he's fighting a bunch of goons, you think at least one is going to have an attack dog? And in that scenario, John Wick would be forced to put down the dog. But here's the thing about these movies, and the better part of, I feel, which we'll get to some of these scenarios, the better part of the news in general is it has to be the good versus evil mentality. There can be no nuance. There can be no, well, this is a bad person who did a decent thing, or this is a generally good person who did a bad thing, but let's not burn either at the stake. You can't really have that anymore. And in the case of John Wick, logically, he's going to fight an attack dog, and that's my whole point with the John Wick's dog rule. So yeah, my point is, the entire moral engine of the John Wick film is, to a lot of people, John Wick is avenging his deadened puppy. And that's all well and good. Not really, because otherwise I wouldn't be making this video, but the idea is the bad guys killed his pup. Alright. The logical thing, though, would be that, I mean, bad guys, gangsters, I mean, even your local police force, if you have one, chances are they all use attack dogs. And so from the creating story perspective, we come up to a moral quandary. John Wick had his poor pup petted just a little too hard, and it is gone now. The story would essentially, yes, it probably would be canceled if, oh goodness gracious, they sent 3 attack dogs at him and he offed every single one. That's the logical thing to happen, but my point is, the writers know that people are not, audiences I should say, are not really capable of rationalizing that. I mean, it's an understandable thing for him to do. If he's being attacked by dogs, I mean, if you're being attacked by dogs, chances are you're probably going to fight them off. But the audiences know your emotional attachment, your idea of John Wick's justification for killing however many people he did. It gets called into question when the very reason that he was sent on this rampage in the first place, he's kind of, in a lot of audiences' eyes, he'd be made a hypocrite. And even though a rational person would say, well, I mean, that's not really hypocritical, I mean, all things considered, it's the idea that I'm trying to drive home. Again, the John Wick's dog rule. He will not be placed in that position by the writers. Won't do it. It just causes too many issues from the plain Jane morality system that people have created, and something I'll try and get to at some point in this video, if I remember anyways, because I might forget, because I go a lot of places every day. But it's the idea that these days it seems what feels right is treated as moral over what is right. I'm going to try and make a mental note, because I feel like I could make a good argument and a justification for why I feel that way. Total tangent. I figured out that this has, the mic has a magnet to it, so that makes it a lot easier. I have both my hands. But tangent, you ever have a situation where somebody was driving just a slight bit sus, and then they blame you by honking at you? That just totally happened to me. I was sitting at the light, 2-lane road, no big deal, and I'm in this right lane, and this person, in a very crummy Explorer, you can tell they might have had a few kisses with other vehicles, tries to swerve just directly into me right after the light turns green, and then honks at me. Excuse me, sister, dear. And trust me, she was of the portly variety, and you could definitely tell, didn't seem like she took care of herself very much. She honked her horn, and she was making all the hand gestures in the world at me. But here's the issue. I was not at fault for that at all. I have never been in a motor vehicle accident, and I take great pride in this fact. Oh, okay, there we go. So the next point I wanted to really get into is just another example of the John Wick's dog rule at work. And this would be, for instance, one that's relative, I would say, is the Punisher. I still, like, as a former connoisseur of comic books, I always did wonder why police put the Punisher logo all over the place. I mean, if you kind of dig into who the Punisher is, he's not exactly he's not your typical archetypal police figure. In fact, he's kind of a messed up individual. I think he's a brilliant character just from my own thoughts, my own perspective as a writer. You can do some interesting things with him, but here's the thing. Mr. Frank Castle, the Punisher, he's built for punishing villains. And I'm sure there have been times when this has been done with the Punisher, at least. But let's just take the Netflix version. No, I didn't actually watch that show. I think I watched a fight one time. I just never really got into it. But let's just take the Netflix show. Punisher is all cool. He's all fine punishing his bad guys because he's got the cool music and the cool choreography and really good special effects. And he's good at weight training his adversaries. The problem it comes into if you took a character like that, let's just say for the funsies of it, he's taken out a guy, he's got his, Glock out, or let's just say something a little bit higher caliber. Let's just say he's running 5.56 and he punches a rifle round. It goes through some drywall, ricochets, and hits an innocent in the face. All right? Innocent person. And let's just cash in on my little rule that I've made up here. Let's say is a little girl. And what does that do to the image of the Punisher? It completely turns the general popularity of the character on its head. Because rather than the whole, oh yeah, he's super tough, he's a good guy because that one dude who was another abuser, because abusers are running rampant, and he's just perfect at finding the irredeemable people to kill, and so that you can feel good in your heart about supporting his crusade. The thing is, once you have him inadvertently take out an innocent child, it totally puts a damper on things. And not just like a damper, more like a wetter. It's like not just something that you sit back and be like, it's a little bit tough to swallow. No, that's like, oh my goodness, I'm about to short circuit because the whole idea of the Punisher, it got completely undermined, by this accident, and I'm sure that the comics have done it at one point. I think I remember reading a comic, I want to say that he took out Spider-Man, might be wrong, but regardless, let's just take it to the logical conclusion of the mentality, eventually, logically, you are going to hurt somebody innocent if you run a Punisher kit as your morality. You are absolutely going to mess up somebody who did not how many times do we see people who are falsely accused of crimes, and in fact they're put in a kangaroo court, and it's terrible because if there's one thing that's absolutely perfect and flawless and there are no holes in it at all, it's the American justice system. You can really rely on it to have your back all the time, every day. Yeah, I'm just gonna say it. There's gonna come a time where Mr. Punisher takes out the wrong person. Absolutely. And if we're applying his ethics to him, well, we have a bit of a problem here, don't we? And oh wait, what was I? Oh yeah, that was the other thing. So the other thing I wanted to draw attention to is that Sorry about the quality. It's the selfie side of my phone, and I just realized it looks really nasty and grainy and stuff. Hope you bear with me and you're watching for the points that I'm making rather than the production quality. I'm sorry about that. But anyways, the other example that I'd like to turn your attention to is that the media uses this rule. They run stories constantly where they are painting a clear black and white image, right? And bear in mind, I'm apolitical. I've lived to read a history book, so I am a naturally kind of distrusting person. I distrust a lot. That being said, media does this all the time, where they will paint one individual, the supporters of said individual, the entire party, or, let's just take it out of politics. Let's just say you have, I don't know, just some guy who, here's a good example. Sorry about my pause there. You have the, false accusations of any sort that will occur, and immediately the media comes full circle. Oh, looks like they're playing a movie on the big screen. I don't know what it is. Somebody gets falsely accused. The media spins story after story about said individual being, every last little thing they ever did wrong is brought to light. And it doesn't even have to be something that was objectively done. It's just hearsay. But media is not held to any level of standard of truth-telling anymore. And they feed. It's almost as if you get viewership by cultivating a purely white, purely black, purely good, purely bad image of whatever situation it is. Man, that's terrible. I am sorry about that. These streets are dog water, literally dog water, hot dog water. That's how bad they are. But anyways, media, they gain viewership by rage bait. Rage baiting people with the whole black versus white mentality. You are either in the good side or you're in the bad. That's tribalism in general. Tribalism, that's how it gets people. And I feel like in a lot of ways, and I mean, look, I don't care. I've got opinions, right? I actually like the John Wick film. I do. It was a decent movie, okay? But I think it's that kind of a thing, those Hollywood films that are about black and white situations, and it might not be a black and white situation, but when it shows the good side of the argument, the protagonists, it's very clear what constitutes a protagonist. I'm just saying, you have people who would genuinely argue, for instance, that John Wick is a morally superior individual than somebody who's actually a stand-up individual who's never hurt a fly in their life, but this person gets attacked by a dog and has to kick a dog, right? There are people who will unironically argue that that second person is morally reprehensible next to John Wick, even though John Wick is got a saintly body count. But it's saintly because he himself is a saint. He's a good guy. He's a good guy. That is written to be so, therefore he is. You can't argue it. I just thought of another one too that applies to this rule, and that's James Bond. I was thinking about it the other day after I recorded what I did, and he does exemplify this rule quite a bit. The original James Bond was no role model. Of course he wasn't. I mean, he was kind of the antithesis of. He was a government, enforcer, essentially. He'd go out and he was a womanizer. He was quite cruel in a lot of ways. Not the kind of stereotypical hero you would think a story would be made out of, but he wasn't really a hero in your normal sense. He was James Bond, the character of James Bond. It was a nuanced thing. Yeah, he was, his existence was essentially a net positive for the story. He stopped the bombs from falling. But the issue, if you wanted to raise one, is, his other behaviors were not moral, all things considered. And so that's just how he was. But thanks to essentially this rule, thanks to the Overton window shifting, to one side, and like I said, the John Wick's dog rule, the recent iterations of James Bond, he's really just a defeated little puppy that gets outperformed by the ladies everywhere he goes. He's kind of, compared to his former version, he's kind of a failure in a lot of ways. Just sad and pathetic. He can't say anything that's outside of the Overton window. If he did, he would be seen as the real villain, but that's the whole point of this rule. The whole rule has to be, it almost, I guess you'd say it infantilizes the audience, makes the audience think of every situation as, you have to check all of these boxes, and if one isn't checked, then you are just as evil, if not more, than the actual bad guy who means bad things. You have to fall into this category. You have to be labeled as this thing, because that's, we can't tolerate a guy who does do a net positive for the world if he does A, B, C, or D. If he does do those things, he must be canceled and he must be put away forever or forcibly changed. And I think that's the danger of this rule. Again, in relation to media that we see, the media that covers these stories are oftentimes pushing the John Wick's dog rule. You are either good or you are evil, and there's no nuance between it. One or the other. And if you happen to have done one of these many things, even in your past, even years ago, then you are automatically checked as evil. Hey, sorry, I forgot my mic, but I got my wife and kids situated, so I figured I might continue on with what I was saying. I'm on a random sandbar in the middle of nowhere now. So it's a little bit windy, a little bit stormy, but I figure you can still hear well enough to take in my points. But ultimately, yeah, I think James Bond also fits into the category of yet another narrative that is essentially teaching people to look at things in an unhealthy black and white regard. The same kind of a thing where the news will essentially tell you how to be angry at certain things or how to be happy at certain things, whatever it is, based on whatever music is played during the segment, or the cadence of the voice of the anchor or journalist. It's the same thing with movies, the same thing with TV shows. It's teaching you how to feel and giving you kind of a checklist, a moral checklist of what is appropriate and should be, worshipped, and what is unforgivable, right? And again, it's not logical that, say for instance in James Bond's case, I meant to get around to this, but you have this secret agent. It only makes sense that a guy in such a position would have a lot of skeletons in his closet and not be the most well-adjusted individual. His dating life is probably not ideal. And I think if you explain this to the audience through the story, and we see, oh wow, he's not exactly a role model because of the type of life that he's used to seeing, the type of situations. Oh, a crab. That's a really big crab. Kind of scared me for a second. It's at least a level 3. He's gone now. Anyways, the type of life that James Bond leads is probably the type of life that would make him quite jaded and maybe say some things in certain ways that are a bit harsh to the normal human being. We are not allowed to, depict that. Like, again, going back to John Wick's dog, that whole thing. It only makes sense, logical sense, that a man like John Wick might come up against an attack dog. In that situation, a logical John Wick in a logical assassin's position would absolutely take out the attack dog, lickety-split, and not have any moral quandaries about it. But again, that would make the audience feel bad things. They wouldn't be able to handle it, the modern audience anyways. Now, I still do think most people, if given that narrative, that situation, would understand. Man, the wind, I'm sorry, it's been storming a little bit too, but most audiences would still understand, oh, okay, I kind of get where this guy's coming from, I get it. But again, the whole idea is his pup was killed, and therefore he's allowed to kill 92 unrelated dudes, and I know I'm kind of butchering the whole point of it, and I'm sure people would have a field day with that description, but I mean, you get what I'm saying, I believe. Yeah. I'm pretty sure there should be at least a Korok here, or maybe a side quest or something, but got nothing. The thing that I really don't like about it is, I don't know, stories, they used to be something of just honest with those who, looked into them, almost like cautionary tales, many of them. Now they serve almost to teach the modern audience moral lessons about how they should and should not feel about certain things. And they don't trust the audience to do any level of discernment on their own. They don't trust the audience to figure out what the story, what the parable actually means. And that's where the media really comes in heavy with this one. They know exactly what strings to pull to make you feel certain ways. And Hollywood has perfected it for generations now. And it's not this new invention. I don't think it's this woke, invention. I think it's been happening for much longer than we think. I think ultimately the beginnings of Hollywood, the origin, it goes back to there. Personally, at least that's the way I view it. Look at this perfect little shell. I really like this thing. Like, that is a beautiful little guy. I think I'm gonna keep it. That is just, man, you could make a necklace of some sort out of that. So, man, it feels nice right now. Feels like the first day of fall, and I don't know, it's not fall yet. So it's a little bit weird, but yeah, it feels so good. Anyways, if I was gonna end this video, it's just to say, be very careful with what writers and directors try and tell you, what framing device they try and sway you with. Always be aware, because writers are always trying to tell you something. They're always trying to get a message across. Some are a bit nefarious. Just try and be logical, try and look at things with less of an emotional lens and more of a realistic, it is what it is. No, not it is what it is. That doesn't make any sense. Just, I don't know. Be smart. Don't fall for the John Wick's dog rule. If anything, try and point it out when you can. Yeah. Well, would you just look at it? You got a sea jelly. Just look at it. Just look at it. Got a sea jelly. Huh.